Quite a number of emerging dynamics ahead of the nomination slated for 23rd and 24th, that is for the presidential nominations, while nominations for members of parliament will be happening in October, mid-October. That literally suggests that we are now in the height of the season. But what is very crucial are some of the stunning announcements that have been made. The PFF, People's Front for Freedom, came out during this week in their weekly press briefing and announced that they will not be fielding a presidential candidate. Instead, they are contemplating making alliances with either General Muntu or the National Inter-Platform to back their candidate. What does this suggest? Is it a marriage of convenience? Is another alliance in the works? While on the other side, Honorable Norbert Mao, the Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, has also thrown a can, opened a can of worms by announcing that there is a new bloc to counter the bloc of Akabadi. In the new bloc, according to Honorable Mao, there is DP, there is the Democratic Front, there is UPC, there is JEMA, and several other forces. He says the rest are just playing drama. Well, what do we read between the lines on this announcement? Plus, of course, today has been another moment where the iPod summit sat at Kololo and there was a smooth handover of power from President Museveni to Honorable Norbert Mao as now the new chairman of the summit of leaders of the iPod. Well, it comes against the backdrop of complaints by the National Inter-Platform, who are bitter about being excluded in anything iPod in the discussion. Is this a U-turn, and what does it suggest? Well, joining me tonight is Honorable Ssemujju Ibrahim Nganda, the Chief of Party in the PFF, together with Honorable Chief of Staff in the PFF, together with Honorable Godfrey Chiwanda, the Chairperson of the National Consultative Forum, and Honorable Emmanuel Dombo Lumala, the Director of Communications at the NRM Secretariat. During the course of the show, I'll be introducing other guests. A very good evening to you and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Honorable Ssemujju, you're no show at Kololo, yet ordinarily you're part of the National Consultative Forum and perhaps the iPod. For clarity, are you part of the iPod?
There is confusion. Initially, parties represented in Parliament, initially, all of them were members of iPod, but there was a requirement for you to sign a memorandum of understanding, and iPod was voluntary. Because this whole idea of the inter-party dialogue at the beginning was being facilitated by the Netherlands Institute for Democracy. They were the ones who were funding activities of iPods and therefore activities of parties under iPod. So it was a private initiative being driven by civil society. But recently, a law was brought in Parliament controversially. That law initially had the names of the Honorable Asumani Basari, who distanced himself, and someone was picked in the corridor. Nakut. She was picked from the corridor, I think, by the speaker. She came and moved it. The law was moved at a terrible speed. Eventually, the president assented to it, and it became a law, primarily dealing with one issue. Because in the Political Parties and Organizations Act, there is a provision of financing political parties by taxpayers, using taxpayers' money to finance political parties. But the qualification is that you must be represented in Parliament. So that was changed now. You must be a member of iPod and an active member.
to qualify for the money.
To qualify for the money. What remained now was for the minister responsible for IPOD, in this case the Honorable Norbert Mao, Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, to gazette and present regulations that will give effect to that new change that was made on the law. So therefore, what was in Kololo today was a group of political parties that are under IPOD, under a new arrangement. Because I was in the FDC, we took a decision that we will not participate in IPOD because it had become meaningless.
FDC attended.
We left now, that is something else. So we are not in Kololo because in the interpretation
there was the president of FDC
in the
and the Secretary General
in the interpretation
and the
of
delegation.
The interpretation, I think, of Honorable Mao is that the new parties, even if you have members of parliament, you don't qualify. His definition is that parties qualify at the time people are swearing in. So the parties, I am told the Attorney General has a different interpretation, but the law, usually in Uganda, the law is interpreted by politicians. So we were not invited to Kololo, we are not considered to be members of IPOD, and we are not complaining.
Well, what do you make of the complaints raised by the National Unity Platform about exclusion?
My understanding of because I have read the letter, I have also had a NUP respond, and they say they are not owning it, they are not disowning it. But the complaint is that if you look at the definition of who the IPOD members are, it means parties that are represented in Parliament. And I think everybody now who is represented in Parliament qualifies to be IPOD. So the rider that you must be active maybe is going to be in the regulation, but that's also, it's not defined in the law, it's supposed to be defined by the regulation, but the regulations themselves haven't been adopted. What I heard the NRM Secretary General say is that they have contacted NUP severally and NUP is not responding. But it was just obvious where the law was being made that NUP was being targeted as an entity. You will not be receiving money. And even if NUP turned up at call, even if they signed the memorandum of understanding, they will put another qualification. I think now you can say you must shake hands with Mr. Museveni. So if you shake a hand, they say now you must kneel down. So the intention, because we read the intention, not what the law says and the regulation. The intention is that you parties that are giving us trouble, you will not get the money.
Yeah, but the party you're talking about is now coming out to complain.
Yeah, the complaint is that by law they are members of IPOD. That's how I understood them. By law they are members of IPOD. Why are you not inviting them to participate in IPOD activity? Because IPOD activities don't necessarily mean a meeting with Museveni and taking photographs. But these Chiwana and Dombo and others have made IPOD look like a club where Museveni is the MD, so all the others must be someone. And I saw really people who are going to contest for president, the way they were being embarrassed. That next week you are picking nominations to contest against Museveni, but you are lined up to receive him like a school children. Because the last time we did that, we were in school. That's what they have done. So that level of embarrassment, you need people who are patient. I don't think I can subject myself to that. Next week you are picking nomination forms to compete with Museveni. But for you to qualify for IPOD money, they must line you up to receive Museveni, and then he comes, you're laughing. So really, and I salute the courage of those who accepted to be really embarrassed the way I saw in Kololo.
Honorable Dombo, you were at the summit in Kololo. What stood out for you and how significant was it in the journey, Uganda's democracy journey?
Simon, first and foremost, allow me to congratulate Honorable Norbert Mao because he has taken over the leadership of the IPOD summit. And this sounds beautiful because when he promised the members of the opposition that he was going to negotiate for a transition, some people thought it was a joke. But this is a major part of it.
Museveni has handed over power.
He has handed over the leadership of IPOD, where President Museveni has been the leader for a very long, he has been the longest serving summit chair. And now Norbert Mao takes over. Now, when Norbert takes over, it comes with it its own challenges. There are things he has been alluding to, referring to President Museveni in the chair of the summit. Now he's the chair, and he's a minister in government, and he's at a vintage position to either implement, accelerate the implementation, or to ensure that certain things happen. So that was a very important thing that we saw for the first time. The second one, not the first time, but for today, I mean since the time Mao promised, because the summit has taken about 4 years without sitting. And so we congratulate him. The second thing we want to, which came out notably, is that people who would otherwise refer to one another from their respective press conferences that have been holding, met for the first time. They interacted face to face. They did not divulge all the details that transpired in the summit while they were meeting, but at least that was a good gesture.